Good evening. This is Brian Thomas Simons, and these are the main headlines of this hour. Among other news,
1. New 266 executive decisions were released in the Oval Office during the weekend. Among them, A new executive decision has been issued declaring that both Iran and China have unconditionally surrendered for nuclear and tariff stuff. Secretary Leavitt declared that, tired of waiting for an answer, President Trump unilaterally declared victory. B. A new executive decision confirms that intelligence briefings will be given to President Trump by a CIA officer in a Pepe Le Frog costume and that Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard will prepare those briefings with the information provided by the Israeli Mossad to prevent new instances of discrepancies. C. As a sign of forgiveness, a new executive decision re-awards Secretary Rubio the 3 medals he lost after being caught yawning during President Trump's military parade. Visibly emotional, Secretary Rubio could hardly disguise his joy even when he was denied the plea of making at least a 5-minute stop in Florida before being sent back to the Maldives. Because President Trump has my electronic signature, he says I must always be alert to be consulted, though that never happens, but he also told me that one day he will let me fly an Air Force One. I always do what he tells me to do, and that makes me very happy, declared Rubio before climbing the stairs to his flight at Reagan International Airport. 2. NBC CEO announces another contender eliminated in The Apprentice White House edition. Michael J. Kavanagh, NBC CEO, announced that another participant has been eliminated from The Apprentice White House edition. 3 weeks ago, Ambassador Mike Huckabee was the first to go for undisclosed reasons, though it transpired that the reason might have been a vicious infighting between Huckabee and Secretary Hegseth that reached embarrassing levels when Ambassador Huckabee leaked Hegseth's resume. This time, it was the turn of the Director of National Intelligence. Kavanagh declared that the decision is the President's and only his, but that the incident when her intelligence report didn't coincide with the one provided by the President's friend Bibi Netanyahu would have sealed her fate. We still have weeks of exciting competition between Pete and Marco ahead of us, so stay tuned, concluded Kavanagh before ending the press conference. 3. We let Rachel Zegler and Snow White down, and see what has happened. We have another chance in Iron Heart. Let's all subscribe to Disney Plus, pleads DNC chair. Yesterday morning, moved by a visible sense of urgency, DNC chair Ken Martin convoked an emergency press conference to call Americans to save democracy before it's too late. We let Rachel Zegler and Snow White down, and see what has happened. We have another chance in Iron Heart. Let's all subscribe to Disney Plus, pleaded DNC chair Ken Martin, visibly worried about American democracy. We are still on time to get a second season. Let's show Disney that we care, concluded Martin emotionally, before ending the press conference without giving reporters the chance to ask questions. 4. New Mount Rushmore to Make America Great Again inaugurated. Finally, after replacing the carved face of Thomas Jefferson with Benjamin Netanyahu's, this is the last stage of the renovation of the iconic Mount Rushmore, after replacing George Washington with President Trump, Theodore Roosevelt with Prime Minister of Hungary Viktor Orban, and Abraham Lincoln with President of the Russian Federation Vladimir Putin. Also, a new biography of President Trump has been added on the site as well as on the Mount Rushmore National Memorial webpage. Greatest President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Born on June 14, 1946, he was considered a genius by all his teachers and was admitted to Harvard in 1956, from which he graduated first in his class. With the help of only a small loan from his father, he became a successful developer in New York, where he is still remembered with admiration by New York minorities, who would not have counted on a roof over their heads had it not been for the entrepreneurial spirit of our great leader. After dating the best models in the world, all of whom described him as a stallion, he married Melania Knauss in 2005 and had 3 children, Barron, Ivanka, and Donald Jr. In 2016, he was elected President of the United States and made America great again, but was succeeded by Joseph Biden after a stolen election, yet only to return in 2024 to make America great again. 5. Defense Secretary Hegseth declares that he has gone back to drinking, but this time I am doing it for my country. With glassy eyes and a raspy voice, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth convoked a press conference to announce that he was going back to drinking, but that this time it was for the United States. In the past, it was to have fun. This time it's for America, confirmed the Defense Secretary. Apparently unaware that he had also declared that in a previous press conference, he announced again that the recent strikes on Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities had been successful and that anybody doubting it was against the troops. 6. Democrats set out to study young men. Here are their findings. After significant losses in the male demographic in the latest presidential elections, the Democratic Party commissioned a study about young men, who they are, where they come from, and whether they have hidden intentions. Among their findings, 1. Most of them don't order lattes in Starbucks, preferring the vulgar black coffee with sugar as it is served in uncool businesses like McDonald's. 2. Most of them have not seen Emilia Perez, which is a clear indication of their homophobia and misogyny. 3. Most of them are not subscribed to Disney Plus and care more about banal things like rent and groceries instead of diversity, equity and inclusion. 4. Most of them have not heard about Ironheart and/or haven't watched Rachel Zegler's Snow White, which is a clear indication of their racism and misogyny. 5. Most of them are confused about their real priorities, which should be diversity, equity, and inclusion. 7. Democrats release new DNC look. After being backed by a Supreme Court decision that validated his use of Photoshop photographs as evidence in the Abrego Garcia case a month ago, President Trump started his 2028 campaign by doing the same to the best-known Democrats. Thus, he has issued a new executive order ordering Democratic candidates to bear on their foreheads, either by tattooing or branding, words that remind voters why they didn't vote for them in 2024. So, having lost their appeal to the Supreme Court, the top 4 Democrats have decided to embrace the injury and display their new look on the DNC webpage. As Democrats, it's our duty to give fiery speeches, to send strong letters, but cave in the end, explained Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. 8. Washington Post verifies story written by The Onion about Senator Mike Lee's fundraising. The Washington Post verified a story written by The Onion about Senator Mike Lee's fundraising. The satirical publication happened to strike the right motivations behind the GOP senator's activities to raise funds, even though it was intended as satire. It's my deep religious belief that God has given me the mission to take their money and prejudices of my people and turn them into law. The prejudices, of course, because the money is basically for me, a reward for my talents, but, to go directly to your question, you have to understand that this is a MAGA era, and that stoking the wrath of real Americans is the right thing to do as it advances the cause of hate against those who are not real Americans. But only for as long as I receive campaign contributions, clarified the senator before resuming a fundraising rally. 9. Florida middle school teacher accused of sexual misconduct invokes the Roy Morris defense, gets $100,000 compensation, and will run for Congress as a Republican. David McEwen, a 6th-grade teacher at UBIC Academy, was arrested Thursday at his home in Volusia County, both the FDLE and the Florida AG's office said. McEwen had allegedly been using real student photos to create AI-generated porn and selling it through the internet. Yet, McEwen's fate changed dramatically after McEwen declared his political affiliation. "I am a member of the Republican Party. Therefore, I can't commit immoral sins." That's the Roy Moore defense from Alabama, accepted by the Supreme Court in 2017, and so I am invoking it in my favor. It's my right. Besides, I only try to exercise my rights and stand before a tyrannical government that is always harassing small business owners, declared McEwen as he was leaving the Florida Attorney General's office. Later in the day, it was revealed that, in a settlement with the state of Florida, McEwen will receive a $100,000 compensation, as in the case of the patriotic defense used by the January 6 rioters, and will run in the upcoming Republican primaries to defend the interests of small business owners. Likewise, UBIC Academy Board Chair Don Ross confirmed that McEwen has been reinstated as a middle school teacher but will receive a leave of absence when his congressional campaign starts.
This has been the news of this hour. Sponsored by Church of the Holy Redeemer's Power in the Spirit. Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Savior? Did you vote for Trump in 2016 and then in 2020? This is the right church for you. If so, Church of the Holy Redeemer's Power in the Spirit is the only Christian church that can promise you in the Lord to have 72 virgins in heaven for only a donation of $50 a month. You will have access to those 72 virgins in heaven. For an additional $25, you will be allowed to replace 10 of them, and for $100, Heaven Premium, you will be allowed to choose them for yourself. Guaranteed, if you're not satisfied with those 72 virgins after you die, full refund of your money. We accept Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover.